up, everybody? It's the Rottweiler Patriots. I'm Vegas,
And I'm T-Bone.
and we're coming at you with another video today where we're going to be doing our Week 13 predictions. This is where we predict who we think is going to win each matchup in Week 13. We are competing against each other over the course of the entire season. Last week, I went 10-6, and T-Bone went 13-3, winning all three games where our predictions differed, and all three games were one-score games. I'm dead inside. Anyways, we're competing over the course of the entire season. Feel free to compete alongside with us. Drop your own predictions down in the comments or anything else you have to say. We would love to hear what you all have to say. And with that being said, let's get into it. Starting off with the 6 teams on the bye this week. There are 6 teams on the bye. The Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, the Chicago Bears, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Minnesota Vikings, and the New York Giants are all on a bye this week. That means there are 13 games in the NFL being played this week. And with that being said, let's hop into it. Starting off with Thursday Night Football, we've got ourselves the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Seattle Seahawks. The Cowboys coming off of a massacre of the Washington Commanders in which they just absolutely destroyed them in every which way they could. Playing great football this year, one of the most talented squads in the league. Some concerns about beating better teams, but they're winning a lot of games, playing some great football, looking good. Whereas the Seahawks coming off of a blowout loss against the San Francisco 49ers, a team that blew out Dallas earlier this year. So both teams kind of have that experience. Seahawks been on a bit of a going downhill last few weeks. Definitely a lot of questions starting to rise out of that team. Were they just a fluke, Fell out of our power rankings this week. So a lot of questions there, and a must-win game for them if they want a shot at winning the division, or maybe even making the playoffs. T-Bone, your thoughts?
Yeah, Cowboys are the better team. Seahawks are starting to fall off a little bit. They need to lock in if they're going to get any playoff spot, and hopefully they can, because I know they're good enough. But just overall, the Cowboys are a better team. I've got the Cowboys.
I've got the Cowboys taking care of business as well. Although I will note it is a Thursday night game, which means things can get a little freaky, and Pete Carroll is a much better coach, so I can easily see Seattle making noise and even winning it, just given that fact. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the Tennessee Titans taking on the Indianapolis Colts. The Titans coming off of a win over the Carolina Panthers, in which it was very mediocre. The Titans have been one of the worst teams in the NFL this year, but they were able to dispense of the worst team in the NFL last week, so we know they can beat at least some teams. Whereas the Colts, coming off of a win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Colts actually find themselves in the 7th seed of the playoffs right now. They haven't been great, but not a lot of teams have, so their mediocrity has been enough to put them in a position where they can make the playoffs this year. So this in-division matchup always gets interesting. T-Bone, your thoughts?
Interdivisional matchup, definitely, and both are mediocre enough to actually possibly make a good game. That being said, I think the Colts are going to be a little bit more consistent than the Titans. And, so I've got the Colts.
I've got the Minshew Mania Colts making it happen as well. I just don't. As well as Will Levis isn't playing, because he's been solid enough, I have a hard time seeing the Titans win this one. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the New York Jets taking on the Atlanta Falcons. The Jets coming off of a blowout loss against the Miami Dolphins, in which they just did not look any good at all. Tim Boyle not the answer at quarterback either. Reports saying Rodgers is now practicing with the Jets again. When he'll actually play remains to be seen, and how effective he'll be, who knows, because he is absurdly early return from an Achilles injury. Whereas the Falcons are coming off of a win over the New Orleans Saints that puts them at the top of the division with the losing record. But regardless, they are in a good position to make the playoffs, which is weird saying that considering how awful they've been. But anyways, both teams, not great, but the Falcons looking a little better and a little more consistent. T-Bone, your thoughts?
I've got the Jets. I just think they're going to win. I don't have trust in any of the NFC South teams except for my own. So yeah, I've got the Jets.
I've actually got the Falcons taking away the win here. I don't trust the Falcons, but I trust the Jets even less. That's for darn sure. So, I mean, this game is going to be one of the worst games of the year, or one of the best. Either way, it's going to be ugly, but I do have Atlanta winning. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the New Orleans Saints taking on the Detroit Lions. The Saints coming off of a loss to the Falcons. A game that has cost them their division lead. They're now tied with the Falcons on record. But having lost to them, are behind them in second place in the standings. The Saints, a talented team that's had some consistency issues. Derek Carr hasn't been as good as they would have hoped. And I think part of that is the coaching. The coaching from New Orleans hasn't been great. Honestly, the coaching from all four teams in the NFC South hasn't been great. I think all four coaches should be fired. Frank Reich, first domino to fall this year for that division, but all four of them need to be fired. They all suck. Anyways, the Lions coming off of an upset loss against the Green Bay Packers, in which they had a rough start, committed some early mistakes, early turnovers, dug themselves into a big fat hole, and fell just short of being able to climb out of it. But regardless, they still have one of the best records in the league and look like one of the best football teams in the NFL, even if the last couple weeks they felt a little bit shaky. T-Bone, your thoughts?
This is self-explanatory. The Lions are going to win. I have the Lions.
I do too. They're the better team. There's nothing else to it. The Saints suck. The Lions don't. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the Houston Texans taking on the Denver Broncos. The Texans coming off of a heartbreaking loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars, in which the game-tying field goal hit the crossbar and missed. And they missed out on an opportunity to take the lead in the AFC South. Now 2 games behind Jacksonville. Head-to-head record is tied, which means division games and in conference games gonna mean a lot going forward. Whereas the Broncos coming off of their 5th consecutive win, this time over the Cleveland Browns, tied for the longest win streak in the league with the Eagles. They're looking like one of the best teams in the NFL right now, playing great football. Russell Wilson looks really good. Cortland Sutton looking great. Sean Payton has done a good job reviving this team. T-Bone, your thoughts?
I think the Broncos are going to keep up their momentum, and the Texans are going to trip and fall a little bit more. So I think this could be a good game. I think actually any team could win this one, but I've got the Broncos.
I think this game is going to be absolutely excellent, but I also have the Denver Broncos getting the job done in NRG Stadium. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the New England Patriots taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. The Patriots coming off their 2nd consecutive loss in which their defense allowed only 10 points. The offense is broken. Absolutely broken. There's nothing else to say about New England. Whereas the Chargers, coming off of a tough loss to the Baltimore Ravens, in which they're able to keep themselves in it, but yet again lose another close one. Chargers have had it rough this year, lost a lot of close games, and overall just haven't been that great. T-Bone, your thoughts?
The Chargers are going to win. Even as mid as they've been, the Chargers are going to beat the Patriots. Got the Chargers.
I also have the Chargers winning the game. Now, it's possible Bailey Zappi starts for New England. Is that going to fix the problems? No. It's even possible. I've heard reports that Malik might even get reps. I'd like to see what he's got, if I'm being honest. Because what else we got to do at this point, but I don't see New England winning this game. Not with the way their offense has been, that's for sure. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves The Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Arizona Cardinals. The Steelers coming off of a win over the Cincinnati Bengals, in which it was not that pretty. But their offense finally put up 400 yards. I don't know how they only got 16 points with as well as their offense was playing, but that was just the reality. The defense, though, able to get it done against a talented Bengals offense who are without their star quarterback Joe Burrow for the rest of the year. Able to smother the weapons and make it tough for the backup to get the job done. Whereas the Cardinals, coming off of a tough loss to the Los Angeles Rams, they just haven't looked that good, even with Kyler Murray returning to the team. They're going to be a tall task against this Steelers defense here. T-Bone, your thoughts?
I think with the firing of Canada, they're starting to feel a little bit more good about themselves. And though I do think the Cardinals are better now that Kyler's back, I have the Steelers winning this one.
I also had the Pittsburgh Steelers getting the job done. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the Washington Commanders taking on the Miami Dolphins. The Commanders coming off of an absolute blowout loss against the Dallas Cowboys, in which they looked not very good, which is about what we would expect from them. They haven't been good this year, save a couple of awkward games against the Eagles, but they were always good against the Eagles. I couldn't tell you why. Whereas the Dolphins, coming off of a blowout win over the New York Jets, they have looked really good against very bad teams, and they're coming up against another one here. T-Bone, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this could actually make some noise. Maybe, I mean, if the Commanders play as good as they, as the best that they can play, and the Dolphins start to pee their pants. But honestly, if we're just going by what we've seen, I've got the Dolphins. They are the better team all around.
I think the Dolphins are going to absolutely smack the crap out of the Commanders. It's not going to be close. It's not going to be pretty, and Commanders fans are going to pee their pants and cry to their mommies. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Carolina Panthers. The Bucs coming off of a tough loss against the Indianapolis Colts, in which it's one they're going to want back, trying to vie for first place in the division. A Saints loss was very beneficial to them, but they couldn't capitalize against a not-so-great Colts team. The Bucs have been in a bit of a downward spiral. A lot of questions about them, especially after such a strong start. Todd Bowles, not the right guy for the job, needs to be fired. We've gone over this. Baker Mayfield, struggling a little bit. He's done all right, but it definitely feels like he needs to improve, and he's fallen off a little bit after the start of the year. Whereas the Panthers, well, are the worst team in the NFL, and everyone knows it. They're coming off an ugly loss to the Titans last week, in which they just did not look that great. Their offense wasn't able to do that much. Miles Sanders looked really bad. And overall, it's just been an awful year for the Panthers. Just fired their head coach, which now means 6 head coaches in 6 years. So it's been a rough one for Carolina. T-Bone, your thoughts?
I've got the Panthers coming up with the upset. I don't know why. I can't really point to you. I've just got the upset. Lock in.
I have got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting the job done down in Tampa. I think they're the better team. I have a hard time seeing the Panthers overcome, especially with the Bucs defense. Alrighty, up next, we've got Game of the Week, maybe even Game of the Year. It's between the two best teams, who we think are the two best teams in the NFL. The Philadelphia Eagles taking on the San Francisco 49ers, a rematch of last year's NFC Championship and quite possibly a preview for this year's. These two teams have been the two best in the NFL, both complete teams on both sides of the football, plus special teams. We saw Jake Elliott make one of the best kicks of all time to help them beat Buffalo last week in what was a tight game for the Eagles, whereas the 49ers coming off a blowout win over the Seattle Seahawks. Their division is all but theirs at this point. So we've got two titans of the game coming together for a big-time clash in Philly. T-Bone, your thoughts?
I think this is going to be one of the best, if not the best games, as you said, this year. That being said, I think that the Eagles are going to beat the Niners, though it will be very, very close.
I have got the Niners winning this one, actually. I think they're going to be able to get the job done. The last 2 weeks, they've looked really, really good. And the Eagles have won all of their games, but they have been very, very close games. Some of them against some shaky teams. So I think San Francisco is going to be able to do enough to get the upset win in this game. Alrighty, up next we've got ourselves the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Rams coming off a pretty comfortable win over the Arizona Cardinals, in which Matthew Stafford threw 4 touchdowns and looked really, really good. The Rams feel like they're starting to come back to their early season form after a bit of a dip for a while there. They're looking better and better the last couple of weeks and headed into a big game against the Browns, trying to get themselves back into playoff contention. Whereas the Browns, coming off a tough loss to the Denver Broncos, which really hurt their chances of winning the division. They need a win in this one if they want a shot at winning the division, overcoming the Ravens, and maybe even if they want to be able to stay in the AFC wildcard. It's a crazy, crazy race happening right now. T-Bone, your thoughts?
I've got the Rams. I think the Browns, while they could win, they do have an elite quarterback in Joe Flacco. I think the Rams are just a more put together team, and even though the Browns defense may be better, I've got the Rams just finishing it out.
I think this is going to be an ugly, low-scoring game because the Browns have an elite defense, but a terrible offense. When the Rams have a good offense, but a not-so-great defense, so it's a recipe for an ugly, ugly game, but I do have the Los Angeles Rams getting the job done as well. Alrighty, up next, Sunday Night Football and a rematch of Super Bowl I. We've got ourselves the Green Bay Packers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Packers coming off of an upset win over the Detroit Lions, in which they looked good. Jordan Love playing great the last couple of weeks. The Packers last few weeks have really started to put things together and look like a more complete football team. It feels too little too late for them at this point. They're going to try and make a late playoff push, but it feels like the wild card's just a little out of reach for them right now. But they've done a good job the last few weeks of turning their season around. Whereas the Chiefs, coming off of a nice win over the Raiders, in which it was an ugly first quarter, down 14-0, but finished the game on a 31-3 run, ended up beating the Raiders, getting the job done. They've been one of the best teams in the league this year, but they've also been a little bit shaky, so there is an opportunity for Green Bay to make something happen here. T-Bone, your thoughts?
Something could happen. I definitely think that this is going to be a closer game than maybe some people think, because the Packers are making a move, but like you said, Vegas a little too late, and yeah, I've got the Chiefs despite the whiteout problem. I've got the Chiefs just putting in the work.
I got the Chiefs getting the job done as well. I think they're the better team, and even though Green Bay is playing really good, I have a hard time seeing them overcome that Chiefs defense and Patrick Mahomes. And finally, Monday Night Football, we've got ourselves the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. I think when people were looking at this game, they thought it would be a little different, little bit of a better game than it's going to end up being. The Jaguars coming off of a tight win over the Houston Texans that really firms their grip on the AFC South. It's theirs to lose at this point. They've been one of the better teams in the NFL this year, despite all of the questions they had. Whereas the Bengals looked like they were finally turning their season around, and then it all fell apart with the Joe Burrow injury. We hate to see that for them. Unfortunately, losing Joe Burrow has had that much of an effect on their team where they're just not going to win that many games for the rest of the year. So the Jaguars are the big favorites heading into this one. T-Bone, your thoughts?
A couple of weeks ago, it could have been the Bengals, but they're just too injured and they're just not together. They're not cohesive. The Jags are really they're starting to feel themselves. They're getting on a roll. They're trying to firm up their grasp on the South. So I've got the Jags beating the Bengals.
I have the Jacksonville Jaguars getting the job done as well. Alrighty, that is all of the matchups for this week. Please be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. We would love to hear what you all have to say. And that is going to do it for us today. Thank you all so very much for watching. Please be sure to hit the like button. Please be sure to subscribe. And we will see you all in the next video.